just let me know, Daniel, that you're good to go. I will start things.
Good to go.
Yes. All right. All right, I'd like to call to order the May 9th, 2024 meeting of the Fairfax County Architectural Review Board. Obviously we have to go through a few administrative items right now. Our member who's attending remotely may or may not be making it, so we don't have to do a vote on audibility for that remote member at this moment. If he does actually join us, we will revert back to that requirement. Beyond that, the ARB also has to make a vote on public comment time limitation to determine how long each member of the public will be able to speak during public comment periods. While is allowed to speak after consent agenda items and after action items. So I entertain a motion from one member to set that time limit. Mr. Zellman.
Mr. Chairman, I move that each member of the public have 3 minutes to speak.
All right, second. Second. Second by Ms. Mangum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Motion carries. All right, a few other brief notifications. This meeting is being recorded and the recording will be posted online in 10 days. So for those attending for items for action or for workshop to see a recount of the meeting and take any notes from that, look for that posting online within 10 days. When we kick off our meeting, we started with the reading of our statement of purpose and intent of historic overlay districts, and Ms. Hammock has graciously offered to do so. Yeah.
Historic overlay districts are created for the purpose of promoting the general welfare, education, economic prosperity, and recreational pleasure of the public through the perpetuation of those general areas or individual structures and premises that have been officially designated by the Board of Supervisors as having historical, cultural, architectural, or archaeological significance. Regulations within such districts are intended to protect against the destruction of or encroachment upon such areas, structures, and premises, to encourage uses which will lead to their continuance, conservation, and improvement in a manner appropriate to the preservation of the cultural, social, economic, political, architectural, or archaeological heritage of the county. To prevent creation of environmental influences adverse to such purposes, and to assure that new structures and uses within such districts will be in keeping with the character to be preserved and enhanced.
Thank you, ma'am.
We have Joe join.
We have Joe join.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're going to do our vote on ability. So first, we need to verify that the member participating remotely can hear us, that their voice is clear, audible, and at an appropriate volume for the meeting room. And then we also have to confirm their location and that remote participation comports with the policy. So, Board Member Plumpy, can you please state for the record your location and reason for why you're participating remotely, and you can be discreet about it.
Sure thing. My name is Joe Plumpy, board member, residence in Fairfax Station, Virginia. Have a personal item that prevented me to attend this evening, and I can hear and see. Well, I cannot see anybody. I just see the empty stand, but I can hear everybody very well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Plumpy. I will then entertain a motion to confirm the audibility of that.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Kalinsky.
I move that board member Plumpy can be clearly heard and that his remote participation comports with policy.
All right, do we have a second? Seconded by Ms. Mangum. Done there. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right.
Joe, we had a tech change in the room, so the board can't see you right now. So if you want to speak, just use the raise function at the top and I'll signal to the chair. The top of the screen, the raise hand function, when you want to provide comment. Yep, that's it. Perfect.
All right. Now with that out of the way, next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. So I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Zielinski, Mr. Zellman. Major into one person. Mr. Zellman, I believe you have a motion.
I do, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to move that the ARB amend the agenda as presented for the May 9, 2024 ARB meeting by moving item for action number 1, ARB 24 WDL 01, 8843 Richmond Highway signs to the consent calendar action items.
All right, I have a motion for an agenda. You have a second? Seconded by Mr. Lindsay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we have our agenda approved. That would take us on to the meeting agenda. First and foremost, though, for applicants here for items for action or for workshop, we ask that presentations for first-time presenters be limited to 8 minutes. If you are here for a follow-up presentation, whether for action or for workshop, we request that presentation be limited to 3 minutes. And I would encourage those 3 minutes to be focused on changes and revisions in response to the ARB's comments and questions previously. This does not mean that you will only get 3 minutes to present to the board with questions. We will have further time for that, but we want to keep the presentations focused because we have a pretty packed agenda tonight. I don't want to have people leave here too late. All right, with that in mind, introduction, recognition of guests. Daniel, do we have any guests?
I think we have all applicants.
All applicants and folks here for workshop. Fantastic. All right, that would take us into our items for consent calendar action. All right, the first item on that agenda is ARB 24 BRB 01 16001 Route 29 special exception located on 29 in Centerville at the Bull Run Stonebridge Historic Overlay District. The applicant is requesting the ARB recommendation of approval for a special exception required for the permanent expansion for the Humane Society facility to allow 9 kennels to be used for quarantine facilities. The Humane Society is permitted by SE 01Y051, which received the Board of Supervisors approval in 2002. This one was previously approved by the ARB for their recommended, and that exception expired. And so the applicant is seeking approval again for consent. Seeing any discussion from any board members on this one, so I would entertain a motion to approve this item on the consent calendar. All right, Ms. Manning.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB recommend approval of consent item ARB-24-BRB-01 located at 16001 Route 29 Centerville, tax map 0632010008 in the Bull Run Stonebridge Historic Overlay District for the special exception required to permit the expansion of the Humane Society facility as submitted and presented at the May 9th, 2024 ARB meeting. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts.
All right, second. Seconded by Ms. Murray. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. That brings us on to our next item on the consent calendar that was moved up from action. So I'd remind members, if you're looking at your sample motions, you will have to scratch out the action item and replace the consent item if we get to that point. This is ARB 24 WPL 01 8843 Richmond Highway signs. This is located on Richmond Highway in Alexandria. In the Woodlawn Plantation Pope Leahy House Historic Overlay District. The applicant is proposing to replace the current building mounted signs with new channel letters. The applicant was unable to make this meeting and it was moved to a consent action. That being said, the staff is unable to present their presentation of the materials that have been received. So if there's discussion on it, you can have it, but there is no applicant to present.
Chairman, can I make a motion?
You may, Mr. Kalinsky.
Mr. Chairman, I
Oh,
move-
I'm sorry, Mr. Kalinsky. I actually do have to ask if there's any member of the public that wishes to comment on this item. Given that all applicants and workshop session folks, they don't seem to have any, but no, then yes, Mr. Kalinsky.
all right, Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve the consent item ARB-24-WDL-01 located at 8843 Richmond Highway, Alexandria, tax map 1092-020010 in the Woodlawn Plantation and Pope Leahy House Historic Overlay District for the proposed sign replacements as submitted for today's meeting, May 9th, 2024. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hammack. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Thanks, everyone. It takes us out of consent calendar items and moves us into items for action. Our first item for action is ARB 24 LOR 08. That is 9518 Workhouse Way Electrical, located in Lorton. This is in the Lorton Laurel Hill MOA eligible district. The applicant is proposing to relocate electrical panels from the inside of building W1 to the outside of the building entry. Mr. Brian Evans represents the application. Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. The floor is yours.
Oh, you want all of us to come up or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And then just for the record, if you would definitely introduce yourselves
Okay.
when you're talking. So
I brought paper copies, but it looks like you all have,
I'll take a paper.
okay.
I like paper.
Thank you.
days of yore.
Still old-fashioned.
Brian, we have the plan set on the screen.
Oh,
Reference.
perfect. Thanks.
And then just for the record, but that you would all introduce yourselves, so we have it all on the record.
Definitely.
Who's presenting, not just Brian. but-
Yes. So I'm Brian Evans. I'm the principal architect for Facilities Management Division Department, and I'm gonna go ahead and pass.
Sado, electrical engineer with FMD.
I'm Krista Strickland with Gauthier Alvarado. I'm representing the architecture and engineering firm that the county hired for this project. So I won't take the full 8 minutes, help you guys out with the agenda. Stand here. The main reason the county wanted us to move the panels out of the entryway, if you out of this area here is this building right.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, good. So that's building 1, and that building has been found structurally unstable to have people inside of it. So the fire marshal would like us to remove that panel from that building, because once you open the white doors, which are just plywood doors, plywood panels, you have free access to that entire building. So they want to remove that safety hazard when they have events in the courtyard. The other problem that the fire marshal brought up was these panels are inside. If the plywood doors are shut and they're padlocked shut, if there was a short or something else, a fire starts in there, it's obviously not in a great location. Then by moving it out, it makes it safer for the community when they're renting that courtyard space, which is actually a very nice space. And the other part, when the county can renovate that building, it would keep the event space able to be used while the building is under construction. So it kind of serves a twofold purpose. But the big reason was the life safety concerns for keeping it in that building. So we have shown it moving out of the building. It is temporary, so we're just showing it on basically the Kindorf channels. I'm trying to think of a building around here that has examples of it, but there would just be exterior mounted. We would camouflage it with plantings, landscaping. And then once that building is safe for use, they would get relocated again.
Okay. First, I'd ask if any member of the public has a comment on this application. Seeing any member of the public here that's not here for another application, but I have to ask. And then I'd look to board members for comments or questions on the application. Question? And then obviously watch for Mr. Plummer.
Well, I'll ask. I did see in the package, the memo from the Virginia Department of Historic Resources regarding the need for archaeological testing or identification to be done. And I just wanted to note that I took a look at the MOA and the provisions for that work, because I guess there may be some question about the need for any testing in that area. So at this point, I have discussed with Heritage Resources that maybe there's a misunderstanding about what the SHPO's review responsibility is for future work in that area or future ground disturbance in that area, per the terms of the MOA, because it's not, it looks like the area that you're proposing the ground disturbance is not in an area that has been identified as medium or high sensitivity.
No, it's in an area that was actually disturbed about 15 years ago, because there's actually tunnels under, in that courtyard.
Mm-hmm.
And the county, a handful of years ago, had to go in and basically close off those tunnels, and make that area all safe. So the area that we're working in has already been disturbed previously.
Okay.
Exactly.
And that might be some information that just needs to get conveyed. I think I'm concerned about, being responsive to the comments from the SHPO. But if and it sounds like here there's a case to be made that no survey does need to be done, but perhaps there's additional information that the SHPO needs that they would be able to concur with that finding. And again, I realize that the language of the agreement doesn't require concurrence, but I also just don't want to, go against what the what the State Historic Preservation Office has recommended, provided that there is information that the county can provide about either additional identification efforts or known prior ground disturbance that would limit any potential for intact resources to be present. So I was thinking that coordinating your efforts here tonight with the archaeological component, which is in the Park Authority, ACB, perhaps working with them on some type of memo or some kind of response to the SHPO's memo might be a way to close the loop on this and just address the SHPO's concerns, but allow you guys to move forward.
Okay,
That's fine.
we can work with them.
Mr. Flinson.
All right, so I'm gonna step into Joe Plumpy's shoes here. He's probably flailing away at the computer right now, trying to raise his hand. Landscaping on these drawings. And sorry, I didn't see, have you picked a specific plant that's gonna go there?
No, it will be bushes or hedges, flowering. We have not made any selections at this time.
Well, and maybe Joe does have a recommendation for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Thank you so much there. I guess since it's not on the outside of the building and it's, straight in line of sight of a lot of people that will be on the Central Green visiting, as you said, it's a lovely place. So I would say if we could, how tall is the apparatus on the outside of the building?
It would,
5
it,
feet?
it would be between 36, I think we showed it on the drawings, but it's somewhere 48 inches, probably high max.
Okay, I think per code, you have to be 2 feet away from it so they can service it and whatever. So the shrubbery, when it matures out, is 2 feet away from it. And that's on the side of the doorway going into it, that little cubby, the little appendage of the big building, or is that?
Just
No,
like
sorry, could you go to could you show where it is on the building again? I'm sorry, I missed that, I apologize.
Can you see their screen?
Mhm.
I just see the detail sheet, sheet.
Drawing E601. Drawing
If
3.
you can go back to 02. It is not mounted on the building. We have it mounted.
So It's hard to see, I'm sorry. Oh, I see it. It's behind the shrubs already. You already got shrubs there, right?
So, yeah.
Now, those shrubs do not
Uh,
exist there. That was
Okay,
just,
those are Photoshop. Those
Yeah.
are Photoshopped in.
Yeah.
I would say that if you could, they already have greenery, they already have shrubs that are planted in the central green area. I can't remember if they are inkberry or yews or boxwood. So I would like to at least be consistency because this is supposed to be a very mundane area
okay,
architecturally and historically. So if it could match the existing shrubbery, I'm pretty sure they will get that tall. If I recall walking there the last time I was at the ARB a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. So I would say just say to evergreen shrubs to be planted that that will be similar to the ones I've already planted in the quad. I'm pretty sure they'll get 3.5 feet tall. If they don't, we're gonna have to revisit. But you know, I would say if as a safe bet, you could use Hicks, H-I-K-S, excuse me, Hicks, Hicks, U-Y-E-W. They're evergreen, they'll get 10 feet tall if you want to, but you can keep them pruned up very nicely in full evergreens. That will be to the bottom of the windowsill, which is, I think, the objective we should try and do.
okay.
And again, this is this a permanent solution or a temporary?
No, this is only temporary until
Okay, got it.
it's
Okay.
made.
No problem, but I think if you do that, I think balancing it, you did a really good job of thinking ahead here. So they have a a very symmetrical feel because they look kind of odd having shrubs on one side because it looks like it's lonely. So that's all I say. Thank you. So Hicks U, Hicks-U-Y-E-W, planted sufficiently together initially to screen it, and then they can put it into a big rectangle of green. That's all. Thank you. On both sides.
Okay,
of the
thank-
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Plumpy. Mr. Kalinsky still has one more follow-up comment here.
Well, what I was starting to get at was the symmetry created by the dual edge rows that you planted there. And I'm assuming that is part of. what
Yeah.
you're gonna Do, it's gonna be.
yeah,
part of
we
the-
wanted to match.
It's a very symmetrical space. It's a perfect solution.
Okay, Mr. Zalman, I see you this one.
Do we have any idea how long temporary is?
Well, yeah,
Can I
so,
make one other request? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Salmon. I'll wait. I apologize.
so temporary would be until we get the W1 building to a level where the fire marshal says, okay, this building is safe. And, are we going to continue to pull cords out from that building to service the tent structures that pop up during the summertime months? And or is there going to be an allowance to have something, a permanent outdoor connection? So these are all things that won't be decided anytime soon, I would say. But so it'll be there until the large W1 structure is a safe structure.
This is Joe. Can I chime in here real quick?
Certainly, you are chiming in.
Okay, thank you so much. So from this temporary structure, you'll be able to run electrical cords, correct? You have outside outlets for the tent. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, good. And then could you have it painted black so that it's not so obnoxious? So painted black or black finishes, at least that face the quad.
Yeah, we can have it black.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm on the board of directors for the workhouse currently. And I gotta find this, it'll be years, not months. It'll be maybe by 2030 that they'll make this habitable, excuse me. So it'll be out there for a while. I got a feeling.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Plumpy. Ms. Swan?
Yes. Try to understand what that existing panel do and what the new panel going to do, because I see the feeder coming to the panel, and where is those two?
So the current panel that's inside the building, that is going to be completely disconnected. So there will be no power anymore to that location. We are basically intersecting that power run, which actually comes from, I believe, building 4 at the, that's one of the side buildings. So the new panel serves the same exact purpose as that old panel. It's just getting it out of that building. And that panel, they have, I don't do events, but the event people come in and they have their carts where they can run their lighting, their sound system, all of that off of it. So it's just giving them a connection point to run their whatever they have, their cards, whatever they have for their events.
So there is no line pulling from W1 to the panel.
Oh, no.
No.
The power line is underground. So the only thing that you'll see coming up is if you were to go up to E601,
601.
it's just that the pipe that's coming up out of the ground to the panel. Everything else will be underground.
So all the electrical in the building will be.
That's all
gone.
disconnected,
It's
yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
Make it safe, there's nobody
Right.
in there. So no electrical fire can happen.
Ms. Hammond?
I'm concerned that the fire department has found this building unsafe because, and your open-ended answer to the board members' questions regarding timeline. And I'm looking at these beautiful windows and this roof. I hope that as you find a use for this building, it doesn't degrade to a point where any of the historic fabric that we see here today is lost. So I hope that if it's deemed unsafe to enter, that this historic fabric is stabilized to a place where it's not lost before a use can be found. That's actually more concerning to me than the standalone panel behind the bush.
No, it's a valid comment. And so right now, safety is the priority, okay? But right now, any sort of penetration through the existing brick that will be removed, we are going to replace it with like-kind brick that's already on site. So from that point of view, you won't see any difference. We're not doing anything else to any other part of the structure at this point.
Sure, but I'm thinking if there's a leak in the roof, water gets in the building, decay begins, the windows rot out, the foundation shifts, a window pane falls. I'm not so much concerned about bricks being replaced as more as the integrity of the structure than negatively affecting the existing fabric on the outside.
The county does, they, I'll say, watch the building. They have done repairs to make sure that it doesn't degrade any
So it's
further.
mothballed.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just, right now, don't have all the money to put into it to make it, a beautiful space, because it would be a beautiful space for all sorts of events. But yeah, they do keep an eye on it. They just don't want anybody in it.
Gabriella?
This is not related to you at all, but we had a case
Hello.
a few weeks ago with a
You gotta wait,
stable,
Joe.
with a stable that the county was in charge of that was left to basically need to be demoed. So this is nowhere near that, but I'm stating it for the record that I hope that it's not happen here.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Is there a possibility that we could put a condition that the county at least has to maintain a building in a certain state so we don't lose the historical aspects of it to do this temporary work?
Joe's on the board.
I mean, we can have any kind of modification to our approval we would like, but the question is if it's a modification that is achievable. And I think the challenge with being here is we're talking about a very discrete action responding to a safety issue. Joe, you're gonna have to wait because I'm just gonna jump my thought on it too, because Ms. Hammock touched on the point that I think I was gonna also speak to, that while this application isn't the issue, it made me think similar when you mentioned where we were shown a building that was at the state of now it's time to demolish it. While I don't necessarily think the workhouse is headed in that direction because the county has invested a lot of energy in trying to make it a viable option. And this is one of the situations we're in. We have events here we have to be able to provide power to those vents. We've now identified a safety issue that will prohibit that being used. So I think this is an artful solution to address that. But I agree with Ms. Hammack that on the record, we are still cognizant of the fact that there is a building behind that panel that is going to eventually have to be addressed. So it's more of and I agree with your thought on it, that on the record, we're just noting that state has to still be thought about, even though it's master plan wise, we're waiting on funding, we're waiting on applicants and interest to do that. So I know there's a lot of factors there that are not actually changeable by this application, but it's important to kind of say out loud that we've seen other buildings in the county that have been, oh, it would have been great. And no, we never got to that. I'm hoping that's not the case here. I would agree with that. I'm sorry, Gabrielle, if I said anything.
No, that was my point.
The only other thoughts I'd add, and then I'll let Joe have his third round, is I heard archaeological concerns, which I agree with Ms. Mangum that needs to be reconciled. What's going on there with the MOA review and what we're hearing from Heritage, because it does sound like it was a heavily disturbed location. That with a conversation, we might be able to resolve that question that was being brought up in the letter. So I think that's something that we might want to consider as a potential modification, as that needs to happen. So follow-up to this is a conversation to reconcile that disagreement or misunderstanding there. The same would go with, I agree with the plantings questions. Also, really need to be modifications on a motion if we're going to move for approval, that we want symmetrical, evergreen, appropriately located, likely matching existing plantings there. Because I'm happy that it's not being, drilled into the building. I'm happy you're not boring a hole to the side to get an outlet hanging out the wall. I think this is the best solution for the time, personally. So, yes, Ms. Mangum.
I just wanted to add that since you are trying to do symmetrical work and add the evergreens on the other side, that does increase the footprint for your area of disturbance. So you are ground disturbing outside of just that linear corridor where you're putting the line underground. So I think just in documentation, when it goes to the ARB and it then ultimately has to go to the SHPO or other parties to review, just being clear about everywhere that you're proposing ground disturbance so that we can cross-check to make sure that it's not in an area defined as high or medium potential or sensitivity.
Okay.
All right, and Mr. Plumpy, I'm sorry. Now you can go.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm going to just say that our last board meeting that we had in March, April, was that this is their number one building they want to make active. So it's on their hot list. So because it's such a wonderful venue, and it started once about 15 years ago to do electrical work and everything in HVAC, but just stopped. They ran out of money. So it has a lot of work to be done to it, but I think it's earmarked. The county wants to earmark it, and as well as the board wants to do this to one of their number one buildings and another building on site as their focus. That's all. Thank you.
All right.
Just one final, this
Yep.
is probably, obviously you did this, but I will just ask, did you check with the fire marshal that even the proximity of this meter that close to the building is still safe? Or is there a perimeter around the building that they also want to keep clear of?
We have it separated by what's required for code
Okay,
and to allow access around it.
okay. So there's no risk of outward collapse or things falling down that would run a risk. That's, I just wondered.
From the building?
Right, if the building is not structurally sound.
Well, the fire marshal does not want anybody in that building. But nobody wants that building to collapse. So ideally, that worst case scenario, I know it's a worst case scenario, but yeah, we could move it further away, but then you start to lose, you get more into the courtyard.
Right. It's just to make sure that you've actually addressed the fire marshal's concern about safety if it is proximity to a building that there's concern about. That's all. It's,
Yeah, it was more if it was inside, they can't see the fire. Nobody would see the fire.
Okay.
And they don't want when an event is going on, that door is unlocked. And if someone is not watching, people can go into that building.
Okay.
So they just want to get it closed off, keep people out of there.
At this current point, the building's not at a state, I think we're worried about collapse. It's
No.
more a state of, it is a hazard that, and the fire concern, if I understand, remember correctly, was the bigger issue. We have a safety concern space with an electrical panel that is not easily observed and presents potential for fires and not knowing where it's happening. So
Okay.
less of the,
I just heard structural,
Yeah.
structurally unstable, and that made me worried that having anything in too close to the perimeter of it.
It's a
would be-
big building.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to have events, I think, if the building was so
I
high.
hope,
Yeah.
I hope not.
okay. Any other, Danny, you look like you had an observation. I don't know if you wanted to share one.
Just a reminder that any modifications have to be enforceable by staff.
Yes. And well, I've heard several items that could be modifications, one being obviously requirements about matching existing, painting the structure black, as well as making sure we're matching the symmetrical format on each side. Those seemed like the first ones I heard. Ms. Mangum, I don't know if I'm quite clear about what could be a potential modification to address the concern about what we saw with the DDHR letter.
I think if we're allowed to require, or is it a suggestion, a recommendation that they consult with ACB on a potential response to the DHR memo?
That is a good approach
Okay,
because I can connect the two. But if the discussion about a sort of formal response, I think would be better from Heritage Resource staff with that coordination because we're the conduit with MLA.
okay.
Okay. I would happily entertain a motion.
We have a two-parter where somebody deals with the aesthetics and all.
Joe wanted to do a bush, tree and. Right?
Fix you, I heard that, fix you.
I think less recommending a particular brand compared to the evergreen matching existing and black paint are the appropriate for the item, for the actual rack. That's the three things I heard from Joe. And then go ahead.
I'll make a motion for approval, please. Is Joe Pumpy?
If you
Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
go ahead, Joe.
Let's see. Mr. Chairman, I move that ARB approve action item ARB 24 LOR 08 located at 9518 Workhouse Way, Lorton, tax map 1064010058 in the Lorton Laurel Hill MOA eligible district for the proposed electrical work as submitted and presented at the May 9th, 2024 ARB meeting, with some modifications. These modifications to include painting the electrical rack black, also planting shrubbery that will mature to slightly exceed the height of the rack, and to have symmetrical plantings on both sides of the building's entrance. The shrubbery to match or be similar to the plant material that is currently in the quad area shrub planting beds. Upon review of these materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of the memorandum of agreement of the Lorton Laurel Hill eligible district and zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts.
Is there a second? If I found a second, I can't amend the motion. So.
I will second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion that's seconded. I believe there is a friendly amendment. To
Yes,
that.
a friendly amendment to add one additional modification that the applicant through Heritage Resources coordinate with the Archaeological Collections Branch to respond to the memo from the Virginia Department of Historic Resources regarding archaeological sensitivity.
All right, we have a friendly amendment from Ms. Mangum. Joe, is that acceptable?
Yes, it is acceptable. Thank you.
We have a motion maker and is accepted by the seconder.
Yes.
All right, accepted by Mr. Zelman. We have a motion made, seconded, and amended and approved by all parties on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can never be too safe.
All right, our next item is ARB 24 HOL 102310 Sherwood Hall Lane special permit in the Holland Hill Historic Overlay District. The applicant is requesting ARB recommendation of an approval of a special permit to allow reduction for setback requirements. Ms. Christine Kelly represents this application. I'll point out that as well, this is related to our third item for action, ARB 24 HOL 08, which is associated with the addition at 2310 Sherwood Hall. So, Ms. Kelly, since we do have to take these in each sequentially, though, however, I imagine a presentation that covers them both.
Okay,
So we'll do
that's
your
what I was going to
presentation.
recommend as well. That would be
Yeah,
great.
and then we'll come back and do each action.
Okay, thank you. I'm Christine Kelly. I'm the architect for the project. And I'd like to just give you a brief summary and then have my clients, Bill and Michael, come up and just introduce themselves to say hello and talk a little bit about the project. May I have the next slide? We have two aspects to this project. We have a two-story addition on the bottom left corner, and we have a carport addition, and both of them we would be requesting a special permit for because of the location on the lot. And we have looked at various locations for these pieces of the additions and keep coming back to these locations to be the best possible place for the addition. We have on the portion on the left, this is a workshop on the lower level and a closet and primary bath on the upper level. And then the carport is just in alignment with the existing driveway. And before I get into the details, I'd like to invite Michael and Bill up just to say hello and talk about why they're doing the addition.
So good evening, I'm Dr. Michael Rich, and we're just recently, as of last week, approved to adopt. So we're super excited, so thank you. It's been a long journey. So the major point to add a bathroom and a closet is to basically have availability for a children's bathroom. And so, Bill?
Yeah, hi, I'm Bill, and Michael kind of really covered it. I mean, it's a 4-bed, 2-bath house. So it was constructed 60 years ago, back when, you know, they constructed 2 bathrooms for 4 bedrooms. And, you know, I mean, really, it's perfectly fine for us, but we would like to be able to add another bathroom just so the kid or kids would have their own bathroom. And, the wood shop downstairs would be so that Michael
More
could,
storage.
more storage and places for diapers and things like that, but also so that Michael can build nursery furniture. So, yeah.
So we're excited. So that's the purpose of the addition. So.
Great, thank you. I'd like to take you quickly through the photos of the site. It's on Sherwood Hall Road, which is quite a busy street, and the house sits back a bit. These are views turning into the driveway from Sherwood Hall. You can see that the house is set back and then a little bit closer. And then this is, I was standing on Sherwood Hall looking through the vegetation. You could see the front door. So you can see that it's screened quite a bit from the vegetation on the street. And the next slide, please. And then some closer up photos of the house. This is on the front. This is where the 2-story, the workshop will be here. The bathroom and closet will be on the upper level. Turning the corner here, these are where the bedrooms are. We did not want to come out the side to obstruct the beautiful view of the windows on this side of the house. That's why we're coming out onto the south side in the front. And then the carport will be just off to the side here, and then another view of where the carport is going on the side, aligning with the existing driveway. Next slide. And this is a view of the back of the house. It's the house, the back is all Fairfax County parkland, so it's a very beautiful view, and not wanting to obstruct the back of the house, but adding on to the front was the best solution.
The next view, please. These are the existing floor plans. The upper level kitchen, 2 bedrooms, bathroom. This is where we'll be expanding out. And then the lower level, the workshop will be right here. The carport is over here. This is the new workshop addition on the lower level and the footprint for the carport. And the next slide showing the upper level of the bathroom and closets, and then the carport aligning with the existing driveway. Where we have a low slope gable roof that's tying into the existing roof of the house, and same for the carport tying in with the low slope gable roof on the side of the house. The view of the addition. Since our workshop review, we've added windows on the lower level to break up the facade a bit and also reduce the size of the carport. And that's a view of the side, the new carport. The railing just because of the way the grade drops off. And then the back, the only thing that you would see would be the carport. And then from the west side, the new bathroom and closets, and then the new workshop below. Matching all the existing materials. And then I've included the rest of the construction drawings. That we don't need to go through those details now, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, board, your questions? Is there any member of the public who wishes to comment on this item? All have folks here for application, so I don't think there's any member of the public. I would then look to members of the board for comments and or questions on this item for action. Let's see.
So I'm familiar with this site. We live in the neighborhood and it's at a T intersection. So there's a road that goes straight to it and then you turn either left or right on the Sherwood Hall Lane. And I pass it daily and it is really well screened from the street. You have to go beyond the driveway to be able to go back and look at the house itself. So and all the time I've lived there, it's always been, say, something of a mystery house. It's been blocked from view. But I'm also familiar because I'm not too far away and I have RPA on my land also. And if you look at this site, I see the RPA land kind of skewing across at a 30-degree or so angle, really limiting what you could do on the site. And I guess that's the reason why you're going for the special exceptions.
Yes, the RPA is right here.
You really can't expand out the back.
Nor we did
There
not
is
want
not
to.
room depth. So it would be very functional, useful. So just in my analysis, I don't. From looking at it with regards to the special permit, I don't know. I don't know that there are any other options. I do think that this is handled pretty well in terms of the way it's placed and the visibility from the street. So I'm satisfied with it.
All right. Any other comments from board members, particularly focused on special exception, but we can talk.
Oh, no, I can wait till the next discussion, the next one.
It's a conundrum because we have denied people going into setbacks. I mean, can't she go before them to ask for this without us saying, giving it a stamp of approval?
Right, so for the zoning application, it's a recommendation, which a recommendation of approval is not required for it to continue through the process.
Because we've denied others, but they've gone into the setbacks. So
But did we deny it for the reason because they're going into the setback? Or did we deny because they run in the setback without any other viable alternative? I seem to recall they had other viable alternatives and they just wanted to go with the setback.
Well, to your point, Steve, I was thinking the same thing you said, that this lot in particular is rather constrained by that RPA. And other instances, we've looked at setback challenges in the past. It's been more as you just described previously. This is regardless of the options, folks have wanted to go with the setback even with other alternatives available. In this situation, there are, as you point out, there's really a viable alternative to do an addition on the rear that's going to be really usable, given that transect of the RPA that kind of cuts right through everything. So,
You're not allowed to disturb the RPA. You're not even supposed to remove invasive vines and things like that. So you wouldn't be able to put any sort of outdoor living space in that if you covered up the patio. So kind of,
And we did try to stay within the setbacks, but it just doesn't, it's not big enough to create a usable space. And we've tried jogging and creating odd shapes, but we keep coming back to something very simple that looks beautiful on the house and is within what we're permitted to request for the special exception. I have gone through before we were a historic district, I have received other approvals
Right,
for
I'm sure you have.
step-back reductions, so it's not an unusual request.
I just, wanted to make sure that we're consistent with how we approach things.
What can we do to make the record clear that this is not a willy-nilly, you can build in your setback? This is a specific limited, except, this is a limited case.
I would say our record during this approval of how we discussed it and documented is going to be that record, our meeting minutes. I mean, I don't necessarily think we'd have to add anything to if we provided a recommendation modification, we have to say we're doing this because the applicant considered almost the site is constrained. I think our administrative record would show that we thought about that if we vote and recommend it.
Okay.
So, are there any other thoughts or comments on the setback question? I want to break that up into two so that if we vote on that, we make a decision, then we can talk about the application for the building permit next. Right, not seeing any, I would entertain a motion from any member, barring myself. Mr. Clancy.
I'm, be happy to make this motion. Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB recommend approval of action item ARB 24-HOL-10 located at 2310 Sherwood Hall Lane, Alexandria, tax map 1021200013 in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District for a special permit to allow a reduction of setback requirements as submitted and presented at the May 9th, 2024 ARB meeting. On review of the materials, the proposals found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 Historic Overlay Districts.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Swan. All those in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Mr. Selma is abstaining. Any objections? And Ms. Orr is objecting. So we have 6, 7. Mr. Blumpy, what was your vote? 8. Okay, we have 8, 4, 1.
Yes, approved.
All right, motion passes. All right, that takes us on to the next portion of this application, which is ARB 24HOL-08 for the actual building permit. We've already had the presentation, obviously, by Ms. Kelly, so I then looked at any members, and Ms. Hammock, you had first comments, so I'm gonna let you go first.
Well, I think it's a modest and a well-designed addition. And that's part of the reason why I was comfortable with the previous approval. I just wanted to say to the property owners that when this district or neighborhood was built in 1949, it was, cutting edge. It was a new way to live. It was open plan. Everything was it was changing how Americans lived, and it would have been really hard to extend your family in 1949. So I'm really happy that you're extending your family in this modern setting, and kind of the spirit of Holland Hills to be cutting edge, forward thinking, changing how Americans live. I think that's great. So I wish you the best of luck.
If I may just say one thing, we want this to be a forever home, so.
That's a cool place to grow up.
Yeah.
Very jealous.
Listen, teach your kid to advocate for preservation. That would be a good legacy.
Mr. Zelman?
Yeah, I abstained on the last vote, and it's not because I'm against anything that you all are doing. I fully support it and wish you all the success. My thoughts were just a little bit of discomfort with the language and wishing maybe the motion language could have been a little bit clearer, but
Sure, and then the board would never approve anything based on use, because that's not an argument for modifications to
But-
historic structures.
But yeah, as far as what is actually proposed to be done, I don't have any issue with it, and I understand why you're doing what you're doing, and I wish you the best.
Any other comments or thoughts on the application? I remember I was talking to Daniel, I wasn't here for the workshop, but I did like the changes to break up the design. But Ms. Kelly, you all always been very responsive or suggestions on design modifications, so I appreciate that. If there are no other comments, then I would entertain a motion by board on this item.
Read it.
All right, Ms. Hammond.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB -24 H0L-08, located at 2310 Sherwood Hall Lane, Alexandria. Tax map 1021200013 in the Holland Hills HOD for the proposed construction of a carport and a two-story addition as submitted and presented at the May 9th, 2024 ARB meeting. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Orr. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Thank you, gentlemen. Congratulations. All right, that takes us out of our items for action and brings us into our items for workshop session. Similar to items for action, folks who are here for a first presentation, I asked you to focus on an 8-minute presentation at max, so that then we can get into discussion. There's not public comment on items for workshop. It's just discussion with the board. So the more time you can focus for that, the better, because then we can help inform your application. So the first one up is ARB 24 LOR 09 WS 9518 Workshop Way Fixture Conversions. This is in the Lorton Laurel Hill MOA eligible district. Applicant is proposing to replace all exterior parking lot pole light fixtures with solar cell and LED lamp heads in an effort to disconnect from the county electrical grid. Brian Evans and
Sando.
Sando representing the application. Gentlemen, or
Okay.
source.
Hi, it's us again. So this is the Lorton area that we're the workhouse area that we've been working on. So we're proposing to change out all the light fixtures in the parking lot, as well as lighting on the building and on the walkways. We have like
The parking lot pole lights that are currently there use the county electricity to light those lights. The intent would be to replace those lights solar and make those LED lights so they use very little wattage. So that's one. The other is that across the buildings, light fixtures that are currently attached to the building, as well as some of the light fixtures that are on sidewalks between the buildings, we're asking to replace those light fixtures to be LED lights to use even less electricity as well. You want to talk about?
okay,
Yeah.
I guess we have some proposed lights that we
So that's
picked out.
a general question right now while you're handing those out.
Okay.
Yes,
If I remember correctly, all of these are replacement light fixtures that were installed in previous updates to this facility. None of these are historic light fixtures from the original.
okay.
Work center. Is that, am I accurate in that?
So.
Because that's gonna be my primary concern.
Oh,
So
I got
I'm just gonna lay it out right now.
Oh, this is one set?
Yeah, it's just one set. I only got 3 sets.
Yeah, we only.
So to answer your question.
Oh.
The current light fixtures that are out there, this is a fairly close match This is a photo of the existing light fixture that's already out there.
Mhm.
What we're proposing is something that is a close match to that, where you got the pole, you got the lamp that's off the pole, but it's gonna have a solar array attached. Unfortunately, this sheet didn't make it to this set, but there's gonna be a solar cells that are above the actual lamp.
And I'm less thinking about the parking lot. I'm
Yeah.
more thinking about the other fixtures on the building, because
Oh.
we definitely, there
Yeah.
was not that close of parking to a prison work center initially. So I know the parking lot.
Yes,
So, but I guess my question is, in the place that my understanding, there were no historic light fixtures remaining on those structures. So
Yeah,
they're
there
talking
is-
about replacing all modern light fixtures.
Basically, we're replacing metal highlight with LEDs.
Okay.
So they're all.
The current light fixtures that are there, that have a nice little gooseneck to it. We're replacing that with an LED with the same type of gooseneck look to it. So it's
Just
not.
changing the internals of it, or you're gonna replace the whole
We'll
fixture?
replace the whole fixture. We can't just change the light bulb. We're changing all, we have to change the whole fixture.
And again, Dana, go ahead.
Joe has his hand raised.
Oh, Joe is saying, well, before you go, Joe, I was just gonna say that the whole thing I'm going for is, I personally don't have an issue with replacing lights and going to LED and doing this, because we're replacing them. I just don't want there to be a historic fixture lost in the mix. That we're doing a fixture replacement project. What about that old one? I think that's been there since the whole facility was here. Put a new LED one on there, slap that one on too. I don't want fabric to be lost, so that was my only thing coming in, is that if we have an inventory, and looking at all the pictures on the buildings, my biggest concern is that for certain we're going with only the prior modern fixtures that the county installed previously, and.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's correct. There's only 2 photographs that I can find of historical light fixtures. Well, I shouldn't say historical, but of light fixtures. One is, you can see in this black and white photo of this fixture that extends quite high. That's what it looked like, okay? It's no longer there. The other light fixture is not on the exterior, but is on the interior of one of the prison cells, and that's this one right here. So, there's not really, there isn't any historical light fixture that was there, other than the one that was removed at one point in time, so kind of get the idea, it was prison. I did find another photograph of what was out there. This is like a highway lamp or a fixture that you would see on a freeway. And that's what was there years ago.
I think we're more interested in the 1920s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And
These are-
again, I'm glad that those pictures are very helpful,
Yes.
and I'm glad you
Yeah.
could answer that confidently. Mr. Plumpy, Daniel said you have a question, so.
Yes, well, it's more of a comment than a question. I think, well, first of all, my firm that I work with, the original master plan and did the lighting design that you have out there today. That was state of the art. That was before LED was efficient and effective at the time. So hence everything is HID metal halide, correct. A couple of concerns here is we were sensitive to the fact that the lighting was to be safe but not overpowering. With LED, the fixture you just showed up there, we're concerned that they are exposed LED diodes, so they blind you when you look at it, as well as they are very harsh in lighting. It's very important to get the right color, the Kelvin color, to match what is the HID there that's out there now, lighting, before you do anything. And I don't know which size of light fixture head you're doing, the bigger or the smaller one. That's number one question. And number two, you said there's a solar array. Is that attached to the top of the fixture? Or is this something that will protrude up above the fixture that looks obnoxious?
It's gonna be above the luminaires.
Yeah, I know what they look like, and they're not, I do not support this at all. I will fight it. Go ahead.
The manufacturer recommends that you have to stick it 7 feet above the luminaires.
That's gonna be hideous, guys. That's gonna look hideous. Come on. I know that, and what's the rationale for doing this? I'm on the board of the work council. I don't know if you heard that already, but is this a board recommendation or is this the county recommendation? Because the issue here is they have dark parts in the parking lot because there's wiring that's been cut or something like that over the course of construction or something like that. So the easy fix, hey, don't worry about the wiring, let's put everything solar. It sounds like to me, but I've seen these solar powered lamps with the solar array that if you're saying it's 7 feet above these light poles, it's gonna look horrendous. And I will never, ever support this. And I hope our board members come do that too. There's more sophisticated things that are solar powered that I would support, but not what you're talking about. You don't even have a picture of what it looks like. So I'm very disappointed in this direction already. And I've just listened to 5 minutes of it. Thank you.
So Joe, just to clarify, they are handing out a cut sheet because this is what he's referring to. This is correct.
Yeah, that's.
You may not have that cut sheet.
No, he might not.
Oh,
but
okay.
I cannot see. Can someone just put it to someone's camera or something like that?
We'll send it down to you.
But it does stick up 7 feet above the pole. Each pole will have one, correct?
Not the array itself. The pole has to go. So the pole we're proposing is like a 25 foot pole. So
let's take a look at the picture if you've got it, but still, it's far taller than what's out there right now, if I recall. I think right now 20 foot. I just think it's might as well put back the old Cobra heads it had back when the prison was operating.
So I guess to understand what Joe's talking about, so each one of those would be one of the lights in the parking lot. Have one of those.
Can you put it closer, please? Because I'm gonna put it closer, please.
7 feet above the head.
Line drawing.
Yeah, that looks like hell. I'm sorry. That looks terrible. I'm sorry. It's each picture will have one, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's ludicrous. I think you gotta come back with a better solution. You either have a solar array on the ground somewhere, there's plenty of there, and run conduit. I know I'm spending the county's money. I know the county's on the budget crunch of this, but it's gonna look atrocious, guys, and I feel hard pressed that the people in Virginia and Richmond would approve this.
So the other option is we would have the solar arrays on the ground if that is something that is plausible, if we want to look at that.
The only issue is that you're not gonna have the maximized sunlight, and the efficiency of the solar cell will be lost.
Yeah, and I think the thing we should look at it too is what are your photometric output lights?
Mr. Lumpy, you're gonna have to wait. There are other folks. I'm sorry. There are other folks with hands up. So Mr. Ollie, sorry.
No, but I mean, if you have an individual array just for one light, right?
Yeah.
If it has excess power, it can't go anywhere else. I mean, whereas if you put one array, you can optimize it better than you could do individually for each one. I mean, I would say this would completely destroy the look of the whole light of the parking lot. I mean, doesn't look like a light fixture. It goes still another 7 feet above the lamp.
And okay, Ms. Murray.
And I have a cranky question. Why are you spending money on this? You have some special pot of funds? Because of things that I know of at the workhouse. I've been involved in this process since the beginning. You've just told us you can't use W1. So why are you spending money on lights when you could be repairing one of the buildings?
My initial statement was that by providing solar capabilities to the parking lot lights, we would be independent of using electricity from the county.
But is that mandated by someone, or is that just a sustainable goal?
Just the latter.
Okay, it seems like the entire place may not function as an adaptive reuse and therefore getting off the grid would not, it's like the horse before the cart. Like, I think the board member Murray's point that maybe this is not the focus right now. Besides the look, I don't like the way they look. It seems like there are way too many. And are you trying to sell energy back to the county or just cover the energy?
No, this would be just sufficient light. We're not putting back on the grid.
I think they would be highly detracting. They would detract from the special historic character of this site. And I can't find any narrative. We've seen a lot of changes using the argument that it's industrial and that it changed, and that's how we approved the mechanical vents and some of the rooftop mechanicals, but I just can't find any historic narrative that would originate with this site to justify the freestanding solar poles.
Is it more of a question of having the solar array above the light fixture that is unattractive? Or is it a case of maybe the solar array needs to be not on the pole itself?
I'd almost rather see it on the building. Maybe I'm at the minority there, but
I think the issue is seeing the solar array on, in addition to
Yeah.
the heads of the lamps.
Mr. Ali, and then Joe, I don't want to cut you off. I know you may have more comments too. I just want to let several board members talk.
So, if this whole idea of replacing with LED was based on reducing the carbon footprint, I think if you just replace the LED fixtures and not put solar, you could still accomplish that, right? Going from a high energy consumption lamp to a low consumption lamp, you don't necessarily have to go to, if you take those lamps, I know in our parking lot, they're not that many watts. So the amount of energy that you would be saving by putting solar, I don't think really justifies the whole cost of extending the pole another 7 feet up and having solar panel there. That completely modifies everything. I don't see a benefit from going solar in this particular situation.
If you want us to do a cost analysis, we can do that.
That would be definitely helpful information to know, but my initial reaction is it seems like an inelegant solution.
Yeah.
Because I think in general, the idea of reducing our carbon footprint, being sustainable, solar energy, that all sounds well, but I think seeing this information here, but then looking at the map, I'm having to visualize in my head, that is I think Ms. Hammock said, it sounds like a strong visual detractor that we're suddenly adding. We've commented a lot on just the temporary showing of solar panels. And so to say, hey, here is a solution, is this really the most elegant solution we can come up with? Why couldn't we pursue another option that could power this in a different way that might not necessarily, because I do think it is a lot, at least from my perspective, a lot going on across the horizon. And if you're trying to either to have a visual aesthetic, I know parking lots are already not attractive spaces. It feels like you're adding more there, at least from what I'm seeing from the cut sheets and everything. And hearing Mr. Plumpy's comments, it just sounds like we'd be adding something that might, that's the reaction. And I want someone to have that reaction when they go to the workhouse for an event is, oh, look at those. I want them to look at the buildings, look at the event, look at the establishment. So that's my worry, is the solution right now feels inelegant. Ms. Huang.
Everybody was commenting on the solar, the parking lot light. I also have another concern. Like to know what the light fixture color and the throw and what the effect we're going to get after we change all this light fixture. If we just changing to the LED to save energy, I'm not quite sure that was the right project for this campus.
No, we're putting back the same we're trying to go with the IES standard of parking lots around 2-foot candle.
Not just parking lot, but also for other fixture that is mounted to the building, they're gonna throw light to the building, and what kind of light we get, what kind of throw, and what kind of color we going to get.
We're looking at about 4,000 K
Throughout.
throughout. It has to match throughout. We don't mix and match color temperature. We're gonna go with 4,000.
It's current 4,000.
Currently-
4,000 is fairly white, right? That's.
Yes,
it
it is, this is 4,000 K right here.
Wow. That's not what I have in mind.
If
I'm not lighting
The-
expert.
Yeah, it's the standard these days to 4,000 to 5,000 K for exterior, interior around 3,500.
That is more like a utility light, right? This kind of color thrown. the building.
But what I
That's fine.
I don't think are you looking for a more yellowish color?
I'm not looking for more, like, I'm not quite sure what but I'm questioning, like, is this got studied already? Because this is something we were looking into, wanted to know.
What, what I'm hearing from Ms. Swan is also a concern, and I had a similar one, I think Joe mentioned as well, the color of lighting we're getting into. And it sounds like you have an answer for that, but I think.
We can change the color.
But I think having an understanding of why you selected the color you were going with, why you were, and how
the-
that's,
Yeah,
what that approach
it is like a 4,000 to 5,000 K is standard throughout our county.
Okay.
That's what we're doing in the parking lot for our exterior lighting. That's,
My sour face was, this is not like all the rest of the county sites.
and I will, and I can find out what's existing, but I believe existing is around there too.
Okay.
I mean, do they have something like that at Sully, for example?
Sully.
Sure.
The Park Authority owns Sully Plantation. What kind of lighting do they have there?
That I don't know.
See, that's what I was thinking in terms of the entire county system, not just the office buildings. What do the historic sites have? I mean, this is a historic site,
Yes.
and you're gonna turn it to make it be lit up like the government, like out here.
But well, we're
And so that they're different, very different sites, structures,
Yeah.
places, feelings.
All right, I got two more, and then Joe, we'll go to you. I have Mr. Kalinsky, then Mr. Zalman, then we'll go to Joe, get Mr. Ali. And again, I remind you, workshop session, so it's not for approval right now. We're trying to give you all the feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
So appreciate it. Looking at your spec sheet, which was, filled out for this project, and it looks like your salesperson checked the boxes, but the two boxes on the solar power arrays, one of them is for a 40-inch long by 66-inch wide by 2.1-inch deep panel. And the other one's larger at 78 inches long by 64.57 inches by 2.1-inch deep panel. The 550 watt, 275 watt. It just seems excessive.
No, we're not going to go with that. We just did our recalculation. We're going with the 100 watts one. So that's the 41.
Okay, roughly 42 by,
Yeah.
2 foot by 4 foot.
That's the solar array we're going
So
with.
it's 2 foot by 4 foot, feet
fine.
near the
Nice.
head light fixture.
Yes.
That's,
I think-
that's a pretty big.
Yeah, I think Joe's concerns are valid.
All
That's
right.
just-
Then
Yeah.
Mr. Zalman, and then Joe, I will turn to you after Mr. Zalman.
I guess what I'm getting at based on that comment is what I'm thinking about is, we have this. And then if we look at your map of the campus and all the red dots on there, and how many of these there are gonna be,
Yes.
that's a lot. And I think that gets back to the chairman's concern is that when people come to the Workhouse Arts Center for an event in the courtyard or whatever it may be, this is what they're gonna see. They're not gonna be thinking about the buildings or the historic structure, or whatever's there. It's gonna be all about this. And so I think it's jarring, is my concern. I think it's very jarring.
All right, Mr. Plumpy, and then Mr. Ali, I'll get you out, Mr. Plumpy. I know we've been making Joe wait a lot.
Thank you so much. I was gonna say that, currently out there is some dark spots on the parking lot because there's no power to the poles. The poles are there, but the power is not underground power, okay? That's been an issue for several years, and so it's a safety concern. without question. I have an office park that I'm president of the association with, and we had Dominion Power come and replace the heads of our light fixture poles that were done in the 80s to LED lighting that is at 3,000 K. So it's that little more warmer feel. It is bright, mind you, brighter than it was, but I still cannot support the solar power thing. I think someone said, why not just make them all LED lights and life is good, but get the right color. I think that's the way to go, and fix the underground wiring to the poles. Then you don't have to do all the extra expense of getting all new fixtures and so forth. The new solar panels, all this other stuff. The other thing is I just sent Chairman, the board chair, Mr. Daniel, a light pole that has solar panels on the pole itself, which is a lot more expensive, but it's the only way I maybe remotely support any kind of solar panels for each light fixture. You don't see it too often because they're expensive. What you got is an inexpensive way to do this. My last comment was, this is such a critical site in our county, and we've sweated tears over this for the last 20-some years. Why not hire a lighting expert, a lighting consultant to do this versus county employees? Nothing against county employees. They're trying. You are talented, but I think maybe we need a professional lighting designer to select a light fixture and light output and solar array, if that is to go in that direction, that is suitable aesthetically for this property that it deserves. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Plumpy. Mr. Ali?
Yeah, I had two comments. Number one is, because the lighting is going to be used at night, you're going to have a battery in each one of them.
Yes.
Right? If the battery is located 25 feet up, and I know how notorious the batteries are, and you have to replace, you have to get a man lift every time you get up there, it just adds to your cost of maintenance. Looking at the building and the roof, the black roof, if you could put the solar panels on the roof and then bring in power everywhere, you might get a lot more power for all other poles too.
Battery's right there, actually.
Yeah, so that's 25 feet above ground.
We got,
And batteries, you gotta replace them at a certain age. And you have 600 batteries and all those lights. I mean, you're gonna lose 5% every year or something like that. So, I mean, that's just a maintenance nightmare.
I think of just kind of summarizing, we have a lot of concerns. And I think a lot of it is knowing much more about the logic and approach that was going into selecting fixtures, alternatives for what, if this is one approach, are there other means that could potentially more elegantly or more sensitively approach a option that could rely on solar power. And what hasn't been mentioned much, because we haven't talked about many of the other fixtures, but some of the other ones are also solar powered. I want to be certain how they're being powered in some way that's appropriate too. Even if it's not the same we're talking about the parking lot, I want whatever we're going to eventually have come here to be truly help us conceptualize what we would see. And I think the recommendations of kind of going back and understanding some of the initial concept planning for it would be very helpful for us to try to understand what you dismissed as a solution, why you pursued a particular route, particularly this one, and what other options might be available. Because I think, as hearing from the board right now, there's a great deal of discomfort with the current idea as presented. And I'm just trying to paraphrase what I'm hearing. And so I think there's still potential, but there's a lot of conversation that's happened. So.
Maybe some positive feedback. I think looking at the photographs on the bottom of drawing SP 100, I don't think any of those light fixtures are original to the buildings. And I think it would be nice to have consistent light fixtures throughout the complex. When you come back to us, what I would like to know is how many of the new light fixtures are utilizing existing location and wall puncture? How many of them need to be moved? And then how do you plan to patch the light fixture holes that need to be removed? And then just really cognitive of conduits. Great not to see any exposed conduits. so that's something to think about when you come back to us. But otherwise, I think it's positive for there to be a consistent light fixture scheme throughout the complex.
Any other closing comments? Otherwise, I think we've left you a lot. We appreciate you coming out here and presenting this one.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, that was our first workshop. This brings us on to our second workshop, ARB 24, HOL 13WS 2107 Hopkins Lane Addition. This is the Holland Mills Historic Overlay District. Applicant is proposing addition on the east elevation. It's Christine Kelly represents. Kelly, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm Christine Kelly, the architect for the addition, and with me are Jen and Tyler, are my next door neighbors. They've just returned from their posts, most recently with the State Department. They were in Jordan and Baghdad and are now onto new careers and have settled in the home. And it's, if you'd like to go to the next slide. The footprint is 1,300 square feet for with the original house, and there is a little carport on the existing house. And we would like to expand living space to add, as well as bedroom space, just to make the house a lot more comfortable and livable for them and their little 2-year-old daughter, Amelia. So we're expanding out towards, this Hopkins right here, expanding out towards the east side with living space. Right now, this is current living space right now, so doubling the living space and then expanding a bedroom to create a primary bedroom. And everything is within the allowable setbacks. And the next slide, please. These are photos of the existing house. You can see the existing carport, and this is where we will be expanding out with living space. We're also proposing a little adjustment to the entry. Right now, you have to go all the way around the back of the house right here to go into the door. We'd like to create a door where you can see it as you approach the house. It's a little more welcoming. And then another view of the front of the house where we'll be expanding the front with a butterfly roof for the primary bedroom and living space. And a few other views of the house. You can see this is the entry. You have to go around the corner to go to the front door, the carport. And then this is the existing back of the house, which will remain unchanged, and as well as the side of the house. This will remain unchanged as well. And another close-up view of the side that will stay as is. This is the existing floor plan. We have 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, kitchen, living space, and we'll be expanding out this way. This is the existing carport. And this is the proposed plan showing the living space expansion of the small bedroom and then the new primary bedroom suite with bathroom. We're coming off the front of the roof with the butterfly. This is the existing gable. And then the new front facade carrying on the rhythm of the Holland Hills window module in both the living space and in the primary bedroom. And then you can see the butterfly roof coming off the south side of the house. Continuing around the existing rear elevation, which will remain unchanged, in the existing carport. And then showing the existing carport, we'll be reorienting the front door so that as you approach the house, you can see it. And then this is the new living space off the front of the house. And then I've added in a few little snapshots of the 3D model so you can see the butterfly roof and the windows and then the new front entry. The existing fireplace will remain exposed, and then another view of the primary suite and the new living space. And then the existing carport, you can see the new front entry.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Kelly. 2 members for comments and questions on this one for workshop session. Tim.
It appears to be a deep lot. Did you consider, obviously it comes to a point at facing the rear, but extending in a way that maybe another building with a connector or or a smaller rectangle towards the rear?
It is a very deep lot in the way that, and all of our homes are angled, and this one is at a very acute angle, that this is our 15-foot side yard setback right here. And this is the kitchen and dining room, so expanding this way with any living space, just, it's not
I meant extending towards the rear.
this way.
Well, no,
Up
kind
this
of
way?
like, I do see the constraints of the site, so my thought would to build like another building and then have a connector to the main house. I mean, we do see, you know, outbuildings and studios, and it's not atypical in Holland Hills to have kind of smaller, I don't know, I don't want to say dwellings, but smaller structures in the back that then, I'm just not comfortable with the addition off the front of the building. It's not a highly altered building, like, was one we saw last month with the 70s or 80s edition in the front. And I think the report actually said it was a non-contributing or a highly altered structure, but this is, and it's pristine on that front elevation. So I'm really hesitant to see it go away.
I'm similar to Ms. Hammock on this one, and also I've been, in the past, had lots of concerns with the relocation of the front door, changing that. That's something that I know is very peculiar to Holland Hill, but it's also, it just seems like there's a lot of things that are degrading the original Holland Hills house in a way that, with, I think Ms. Hammock's point, we've got a house that's got not a lot of changes, so there's a lot more sensitivity, and maybe I'm not as elegant in describing it, but I'm trying to think of areas where you could do that without eating into some of those key features that I always see as kind of archetypal of that historic overlay district. And I was looking at the rear too, of like, what could you do that way? And then looking at the floor plan to see, could you go into the back? I wasn't thinking of an additional building. I was just thinking an addition from the, because it is at an interesting angle. So, and I'm not an architect here, so again, I'm not the one who normally would.
Right, it is, and the bedrooms are back here, and this is the main living space, and really coming out the front is, it does create this cohesive, open, connected living space to what's already there, without trying to make it work with, you know, coming off with angles or hallways, or having to walk physically from one living space through an angle or some sort of hallway to another living space. And we did look at all aspects of the site and kept coming back to how simple this is on the works with the existing house, keeping all three of the other sides of the house. And
I'll just say,
they're
it's just
existing.
from, as a preservationist, that's kind of one of my roles on the board as an architectural historian. That's where so much historic fabric is on that facade. And so it will all be encapsulated or removed that new addition. So it's a lot of things that are changing on that. And I've seen lots of flexibility working with blank facades, but we're working with a very pristine, or at least very high integrity facade. That change is really something that's dramatic. And so that, as a preservationist on this board, that kind of bothers me as is there another solution? Obviously, again, not the architect, so.
Well, the rear is intact too, but the rear is not publicly visible from a right of way, which is something else that the board considers, what can be seen from the public right of way, and the primary facade is what is most visible and would have the most impact on the historic district from a visual standpoint for the public. I don't make appropriate decisions based on program and interior program, even though I know that owners and architects make decisions that way. So if this was presented to me today, I could not approve it without seeing some exploration of another option. So.
It's just my point, Mr. Kolsky.
Just going back to Mr. Daniels' point about the door, a lot of the doors in Holland Hills houses were skewered or tucked into an alcove. And this one, just by position, and I looked at what Ms. Kelly did with the door, by positioning of the carport, I don't think it really had a big effect on that. It still had that alcove position, even though it was turned perpendicular and it comes across and would be visible from the street. It just wouldn't be clearly visible.
It is much less
So-
dramatic than the one instance, I think, you know,
Yes,
thinking
yeah.
about where the door became a legitimate front door.
So I did consider that, but I think it is kind of mitigated by the fact that position on a lot and how it will be perceived from the street will be safe. Not as apparent as past instances where we've dealt with it.
Any other members? Joe, good?
From a design perspective, I could see where the best view and the best place with the most openness to expand your living area is towards the front there. And by shifting it forward. The conundrum there is how do you deal with the fact that that's the historic wall, and the integrity is still there, and you'd be losing that. I have no real issue with the butterfly roof, the way paneling. I think that's actually a pretty good way to handle the form if you go down that back. So I see some good moves that you've made here, but I'm reluctant to take that front facade and completely change it.
Yeah, I think all the techniques and approaches to doing an addition, I think it's a very concept-wise sensitive addition. It's just where it is in relation to the historic property itself. It's, from the mechanics of it, it makes, I think, once you put it far more eloquently, but it makes sense. But I would hope we could try to find some way to, it's possible, retain more of that initial facade. And I don't know if that's considering what the applicant and the homeowner might be able to do or what they're willing to do. Obviously, we don't dictate interior design or interior layout, but thinking about it from if we had to try to find other directions to go. And I'm just thinking back to the previous one that we just looked at and approved. There was lots of constraints and was forcing a direction. This one, I think there's more options potentially, but I feel like I would have to understand that more before I like to think about it. Sir Ollie.
Maybe a naive question here, but there was another case we looked at. Could they not preserve the existing facade by using the same materials, by moving it up front? That way the originality is at least maintained. There was one project we looked at where he was going to demolish the wall and use the same material. I mean, is it a possibility even? Or is it?
That's like an antithesis of preservation theory. It would lose its integrity by being moved to a different location. But I see what you're saying. Like if the building was about to fall in on itself, there was a question of using historic fabric. I mean, yes, but that's not the case here. Like it's functioning in its intact form. And so, yeah, but that doesn't solve the conundrum. At least for me as a preservation.
Swearing.
What troubles me is I sat through the slideshow of is this house still contributing or not? And in terms of what you want to do, in terms of what has been done to other Holland Hills houses, it's not that bad. You're keeping three sides. You are not engulfing it like some of those other houses are. So I'm very divided between keeping the interior, keeping the original fabric, but also being fair. Because there's a lot of houses in Holland Hills have much less that retains it. And what you're trying to do is retain, you're trying to make the house more livable in a sensitive way. So I'm sort of not sure where to go with this. I was on the task force. That's why I saw the slides.
Yeah, it really is. And I agree with Ms. Maria in the sense that, we have other houses where we've seen they're surrounded by additions. And I think we talked about what we saw earlier. But this one, that's where it presents the most challenges. We've got so much integrity of the property. And yet we're fully acknowledged multiple times that to make these houses livable, there has been the need for additions and changes to them. And so I really to see that whole side go away. It feels like a textbook picture of a Holland Hills house when you look at some of the photographs of it. You know, it's just like if you were to put one on a book, like, here you go, there's a Holland Hills house, just snaps out of the picture real well. It kind of, there are others where like, oh, well, there's this, and this, and they're like, oh, those are new changes and factors. This one has got so much going with its original design there that makes it all the more challenging to add an addition.
I don't think the easiest or the simplest solution is always the best. Again, for historic structures, and every site is very specific. The landscape, the siting of the building, the angle, the lot, and so, yes, of course, we want to be fair. We want Holland Hills to enjoy being a historic district overlay. But like I think that all options should be explored before we can decide that this is the best case.
Yes, this one. Absolutely.
I cannot come up with any quicker or better idea, but it's a different thought. Perhaps you already explored that option. Instead of putting an addition at the front, I was thinking perhaps extend at the back where currently have the bedroom and make the building mass become an L shape. The one thing about this new addition at the front, it create a walk-in closet and the main.
You can go to the floor plan. Another one, a couple.
Yeah. Right, like right now, the living room has that very open storefront throughout. But now putting the master bed at the front and the walk-in closet, it kind of take out a little bit of that openness away. I almost wanting to see the dining, the current dining, the current living and current kitchen area is that 2/3 of the front is completely open. But that is my own preference, that every people have different personality. Just perhaps you thought about that, and how that L shape and putting the addition on the back.
Back here.
Right. But that's where the HVAC unit is.
But I don't know, I can't remember what the lot was like in the back, but I don't know if that allows more ability to go up or down or to have more change in space back there.
It's almost, that's, I think, without doing the calculation, you just push your square out. That's pretty much the same as the front addition that you are proposing before encroaching into the side setback.
Right, this is a bedroom right here and.
Right.
And pushing that out, but it does cut off, this is the kitchen dining area. It does cut that off from the rest of, from the view from the rest of the house.
You're right.
And then right here, it's just very too tight to add any substantial amount of space right there, just the way that the house sits on the
Did you
line.
do story addition in the rear?
That's something we haven't.
I mean, and again, I wish they had Mr. Burns here because obviously he is the master.
Yes, we're missing John Burns
The
tonight.
master of all Holland Hills, but I'm just trying to find
I would be more comfortable with a 2-story mass set off from the original building. I mean, yeah. What's proposed?
Ms. Orr, do you have some thoughts?
I don't want to pick on you,
But
David. You're
I think
the
you
only
want
one who hasn't had anything.
Well, can you also watch the slideshow?
Yeah, it's hard. I think, wouldn't this push this to be non-conforming based on Laura's
No, we would have
evaluation?
said, yeah, we would have said it's still contributing because we could see 3 of the sides.
But we don't go around to the back. It's
That's the logic that we were using at the
At
time,
the time.
at the time,
For determining contributing lots.
right?
Lower ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was,
Staff was.
yeah, it was, so I would have said yes, we would have left it to contributing. But
That also gets us to the
Bothers me.
unique challenge of the Holland Hills home, because each side, unlike many of the modern architecture we deal with when it comes in, each side actually has a bit, it has style, as opposed to, we don't have tons of blanket bed walls in Holland Hills compared to some of the new construction we get in other places. So each side has its own level of, I would say, contribution compared to some types of residential construction. That's the problem there too, is you find a side and like go put something on it, but many of these all have, like, even just looking at the bedroom windows on the one side, it's like, it's a beautiful array of lighting into each of the rooms. It's,
They're jewel boxes.
yeah, there you go. That's it.
Jewel boxes.
But to summarize it, it's, you're not opposed to it in addition on the front, but not you'd like to preserve some of the facade.
Yeah, I think that's particularly that we're seeing that loss of that large living room space and going out. I think that's a lot of facade to lose for a whole addition. And I think we're, at least most of us are flexible ideas of
Mhm.
more perhaps avant-garde ideas than maybe some of the other ones, it seems like. And obviously, I'm going to throw John under the bus here. He's been happy to talk to folks in the past too.
Yes,
So-
and I think this would probably be a good project to speak with John about, yes. Father Jen, would you like to say anything?
This has been informative.
Yeah.
I think Christine laid it all out pretty clearly. I imagine we've all seen it in the floor plan, which is what makes this that much more complicated. The one bedroom being at this point suitable for a nursery, but not for a 2-year-old who will at some point be bigger than a 2-year-old. And likewise with the bedroom, just trying to come up with a solution that did, to our mind, maintain much of what we fell in love with the house in the first place without doing what we thought to be a wholesale change of the facade, the interior. But again, very informative, and certainly things for us to be studying.
Yeah, I think our main goals overall for this were, one, being able to have a bedroom that would accommodate a growing 2-year-old, but then also have that be able to be shareable with a growing family, because in addition to us and our daughter and hopefully another kid, we also have my mom there, so one bathroom is a little bit too little for 4 people, potentially 5. And then what we had found with the living space, why we want to expand this, because we have a lot of family that come and visit, and a lot of friends that come visit, mainly because we've been overseas for so long, and so now they're all making time to come visit, and that's great, but we've noticed how parents it can be when you have both families in the house. Yeah, just trying to explore any options for accommodating all that.
Thank you. That's very helpful. It's also encouraging to hear how many young and growing families are
Isn't it
involved.
fantastic? It's wonderful. There's so many babies
Yes.
in Holland Hills now.
Okay, so I think we gave you a lot of feedback. as
Yeah,
always,
thank
Ms.
you.
Kelly.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming as well and for your feedback. All right, that takes us on to our third workshop item. That is ARB 24 HOL 12 WS 2405 Namath 4th Edition. Also in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District. The applicant is proposing a 1-story addition. This is Carlos Yana.
Yes, hi, hello.
Okay.
I am Carlos, I'm representing Scott. Scott is the architect that worked in this design. Unfortunately, he had family emergency, so he couldn't come. Same as Mrs. Sprague. I think the 3 kids could not even help for her to come. So I'll try to explain what they're proposing. The addition.
Sorry, it's being a little slow here.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's not doing it. Can't do it yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so this is the house. It originally was just a rectangle, and I think maybe a few years ago, they did an addition at the front. And they're proposing to do the addition on this side. It's connecting this to the house by a link, a glass link. And the reason is because the 3 bedrooms that they have, they're currently too small. So they would like to have more space on those bedrooms, and as well as having the parents, when they come visit, to have an accessible bathroom and a little bit far away from the chaos of, I guess, the kids. So in the next slide,
Yeah, sorry, it's still being a little slow.
it's okay.
There we
So
go. Sorry.
So that's the existing elevation, and this is the existing floor plan, which it has the master bedroom here, and this is small 3 bedrooms. And they're proposing to connect with this that sits below the roof lines to this addition, which is 2 bedrooms and a playroom with an accessible bathroom for the older parents. They're mimicking the slopes of the existing roofs, and they're continuing all the materials throughout, mimicking what is existing, bringing it to the addition itself. So I guess at the last, that's the existing elevations at the moment. And I think the last one is these are the pictures right now. So the addition will be connecting here towards this way angle because of the lot itself. So you can see it right here. So the addition will be somewhere around here. They didn't think about the back because they kind of like the openness of their backyard. So all the bedrooms, they can see the backyard itself. And at the last, so these are the additions. This is the front addition. This is the front elevation. This is the main that is existing at the moment, and this will be the addition proposed. On the left-hand side, this is the addition seen. They're mimicking the same windows that they currently have. And the rear, this is the rear addition. This is the existing. So it's basically it.
Okay.
I do what I could.
No. It is, again, it's a workshop session, so you're not here coming for a formal application for approval, so that's okay.
Okay, good.
You're here to get feedback, and it's also recorded, so you can take that feedback back to your executives. So look for board member thoughts or comments on this one.
We were just looking at Google Earth to see that, yes, the front has been altered with looks like a small bump out and a large overhang.
Yeah.
With a steel pier. So the front elevation that faces the street is not,
It's not going to be
it's not
touched.
original. It's not the original elevation.
Do you know when that was done?
I do not know.
Very recent.
But I would say.
Do you have the permit history?
I can look it up.
Well, like my case is that it's not, a copy of the original document. And I like, sorry, are you an architect, sir, or are you just representing?
I'm representing Scott, yeah.
Okay, well, so Scott, the architect who's not here, if he was here, I would say that I like his solution by placing it towards the rear and off the main body of the building. I think that's a good solution.
How, I'm just having a hard time. So what is, you may not have the answer to this either. What's the length of this going to be from the new addition all the way to, I guess, the closet on the other? It looks long, very long structure now. That's the one thing that struck me the most was.
Oh, so you're saying the entire thing?
I'm just trying.
I know
to
that the
picture it.
addition, it's 30 feet on one side.
Yeah, and then adding to the,
Yeah, I would say, right, looking at this, it's probably 60, basically the double.
It's not a cul-de-sac. So I don't think you're gonna see it like a motel. I think visually it's gonna be set
Oh, it's
back.
broken because of the actual lot. I think it's way behind.
and that's one thing I was trying to have to conceptualize the siting on the lot, because I was looking at the
Well,
plot.
it's kind of-
116 feet long.
106, thank you. Oh, okay. It just is gonna be very, it's looking at it now and looking at it with that new addition is just gonna, it's not running into a setback issue either, which is
Yeah,
it's astounding. The lots in Mullen Hills are astounding, right? Yeah, it's up to the edge.
Yeah.
Oh, Daniel, yes.
The addition is 2021.
Okay, so right before,
Yeah.
right before Kennedy. Okay,
The one that I can find a record for
okay.
while we're in this meeting.
Any other comments?
I'm not sure you'll see it based on the size.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna be way back in there. Oh, it's just a circle.
It's a circle, yeah.
The kids in the classroom might see it during the winter.
So obviously, ultimately, it does come back, we'll need more detailed drawings for final
Mhm.
approval that, looking at it in concept right here, looking at these plans is helpful, but I can see some of our architect members, particularly the one who's not here today, having a lot of questions about some of the detailing in there.
Mhm.
Because I can appreciate the idea of matching and trying to reflect the same materials, but the other areas I'm wondering about is that hyphen. What's actually going into, it's a glass hyphen connecting it, just like.
Yes, and it's a flat roof and it sits below the actual roofs. They have the butterflies.
Will it be butt jointed glass or framed glass? I think that is an important detail. And then,
I believe it's just a glass panel, square, basically, I think it's at 6 feet, but 8 or 7, I guess.
I don't like relying on Google Earth just because it's not up to date. So when you come back, if you could please bring the current photographs of the property, especially street view, looking towards the direction of the proposed addition.
Okay.
Because I think most of the shots you were showing were mostly focusing on that side where the addition was gonna be these right here.
Yes, correct.
If we could get a
shot from, I guess that one would be kind of,
or I guess if they
That
were,
one at the bottom, but if we could see more, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm interested with what the pedestrian will see.
yeah, I think also the pictures are too close together, so it kind of blends.
yeah, because that will be where it is, right over there.
And now there'll be flowers and trees. I mean, those are great photos with the leaves gone. Always the best, the best time to take a photo now that we escape.
Looking at the plat, you may want to have this fixed. Looking at the plat, this plat doesn't reflect the 2021 edition on it.
I think in that one it does. You may have, if you're looking at the presentation or.
I'll look at the presentation. There was a plat. Okay, there's a plat.
No,
Drawn by Dominion. And
that
does
has
one have it on there?
Yeah, that has the addition on it, but
It does. All right, so it's been updated. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a 2020 plat.
Yeah, what's been given us is different than what you've got.
Yes, correct. There's one plat that didn't have that, and so he added it.
We were discussing with the last house of challenges to try and find something that would work within the lot constraints, and I think you've got more room to play with in this lot. And you also have a modified facade on the front, which is less, that was the concern here, so I think that's one of the logical places to put an addition. And it isn't too obtrusive, given its location, so that's, I mean. Again, though, obviously, when it comes in, if that's the plan to come in for an application, full plan set, all the details and everything, because particularly these two folks right here, we're really on that, we don't have that, because we try to have consistency. We approve something that it's what we know is going to be built. And so that information is going to be critical going there. And I agree with Ms. Hammock, a little bit more of a walk around with the pictures of the lot can be really helpful to understand that. I don't know if there are any other members that have thoughts or comments on this one. No? All right, I'm not seeing any, so, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you think a 3D will help also? I mean, some
3Ds have helped. That's not what doesn't hurt.
Just as long as it matches the
Yeah.
drawings.
Yes.
When it doesn't, we tend to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With
but
material,
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That takes us on to our last workshop session. Morning. Okay, do they need a restroom break? All right, okay. And then we'll go along. All right. ARB 24 HOL 11 WS, this is 2208 Martha Field addition. This is the applicant's proposing 2 additions, relocation of the front entry door and installation of a new privacy fence. This is Deborah Lerner is representing the application. Yes?
Hello.
Yes.
I should start by thanking you all for making it to the end of the evening. It's been a long evening. I also have Sabrina here. She's our homeowner. You are welcome to pepper her with questions as you see fit as we move forward. So you're right, we have 4 different sort of items within this scope of work. We'll move through them pretty quickly. If you don't mind, can we just zoom in just a little bit to this site plan, because that'll really help us get oriented as we move through them right here. So you can see them highlighted in red. I just want to point out a few quick things about this site plan. So Martha's Road is down here. You can see that the house is really at an angle, right? The first item we're going to talk about is this privacy fence. The reason I'm calling it a privacy fence is because there's an existing hardscape patio. This is really their main outdoor space outside of their kitchen, where even though the lot's pretty large, this is where the hanging out happens. This privacy fence is actually reconstruction of an original privacy fence that was there. I got a really cool original photo of the house that I'm going to show you. The second item is a door relocation. I just want to point out here on the site plan that the existing door is within this niche. It's actually at this side wall here. It's quite literally like the existing door has its back turned to Martha's Road, if you can see, because it's sort of facing that way, and Martha's Road is down here. We're going to keep it in the niche so that it still is set back like these Martha's Road sort of doors always are, but we're going to propose that it just switch to the other wall, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. And then you can see living room addition and bedroom addition, right? And I'm so sorry, I don't know who's up. Are you operating? You're operating? Next slide, please. Thank you. So this again just gives you orientation to the site from Martha's Road. This is a view of the house. There's an existing wall that kind of shields the front leaning facade, I'll call it, because it's angled. So kind of every view is a little bit shielded because of landscape. It's pretty well hidden, but you know, most homes in Holland Hills are. This is just another good illustration. The yellow is meant to show you sort of the sight lines. There's no even neighbors that can really kind of see into the major windows of the house, no matter what you kind of do. Forward one. This is the great original photo of this house. It actually came from the ARB documents. This is in your documents, and this is Sabrina's house. Isn't that cool? This is the fence that we want to rebuild. We have no idea when it came down or why it came down, but we want to put it back exactly like this. The fence that you're seeing is the kind of fence that has like the 45-degree angle slats. So at the right angle, you can kind of see through it, but from Martha's Road, you really won't be able to see through it at all. And it's just painted wood slats. And our plan is to reconstruct it exactly like this. It's about 6 feet high. And it'll be in that exact location. This is just an image you can see right now, the house without the privacy fence. And so we'd like to put it back exactly where it was. This is a rendering of the front of the house. This is where we kind of want to talk about the existing door. I made a note here. The existing butterfly roof is gorgeous with tapered ends. Our plan is to rebuild it with tapered ends. I just wanted to point that out because we got some comments about it when we went in front of the Holland Hills DRC. It's just my rendering capabilities that I couldn't draw it with tapered ends, but it's meant to be tapered, just so you know. So you can see that the front door is hidden back here. It is so incredibly hidden from the street. And we heard your conversation about that. We would love to talk about that some more, but our proposition is that we just keep it within the niche, but rotate it to this wall. So it's still angled from the street. It's still tucked away. It still would not be a front facing front door because of its angle from the street, but it'll just give it a little bit more of a fighting chance to be a little bit more welcoming. And so the idea is that this front door would follow, because it occurs underneath the butterfly roof, it would sort of by nature, really, we feel, have to have the glass around it and to follow the roof line with the way the rest of the glass does occurring underneath the butterfly roof as well. And that's our proposition for the front door. Okay, so then let's talk about the bedroom addition. So the bedroom addition we're proposing is on the back of the house. It's barely visible from the street, if visible at all, just because of the privacy fence and the angle and whatnot. It's a pretty straightforward box. This is from the rear yard looking at the existing house. There are 2 bedrooms. I mean, you've all seen this house before. It's very much, except for the fact that it's a butterfly roof, it's a lot like the house we looked at 2 workshop presentations ago, right? But this is the area where we're talking about putting that primary suite. This is the straightforward view, and this is a rendering of what it would look like. We're proposing continuing the butterfly roof. And you can see it here, this is looking at sort of that kitchen patio, that's the privacy fence. And you can sort of see it, what it looks like off at the back of the house. And the idea here is that the glass in the master bedroom here, it continues with the same glass so that the sight lines are as they were intended to be when the house was sort of sited on the lot originally. Now, the living room addition. The living room addition is here behind the wall. This is, again, the most forward-facing facade of the house. And I'm so glad you guys just had a similar conversation about modifying the front facade of a house in 2 workshop presentations ago. And I'm so glad you talked about this because it's a discussion that Sabrina and David, her husband, and I had during the design process. We were really sensitive to modifying that front facade of the house. We went through a lot of iterations about this, and the best plan that we could come up with to sort of minimize the impact to that facade was this approach, and we sort of minimized it by doing 3 things. The first thing was we didn't modify the entire facade, and you'll see it in the plan. In fact, well, we'll get to the plan in just a second, but we didn't modify the entire facade. You'll see that the entire brick section that occurs at the rear of the house is not touched at all, so that still comes through. The second is that this bump out that we added living space is only about 6 or 7 feet. So it's actually a really minimal little bump out on the front. And then the third is that we didn't modify the roof line. We're really just extending the butterfly roof out a little bit further, continuing that line out. So our hope is that it's really sort of, just sort of like accentuating the nature of that facade as opposed to modifying it, at least as much as we could get away with, while just giving that little bit of extra square footage to the living space that they really need. So you can see it here. So this is the extra square footage in the living room. It looks really large blown up on this screen, but really it's only 6 or 7 feet bumped out. And you can see, and all the windows are brought forward to be the same, but this brick section is completely left intact. And you can see here on the rear of the house is the addition for the master, for the primary bedroom. Here's the relocation of the front door and the privacy fence. And I think next you'll see anything colored in teal is existing, just so that you can see the difference between existing and new. So there's the sort of, you can see how the living room bump out just comes out a little bit further here. And it's just, you can cycle through these pretty quickly. It'll just bring you to the end. You can see the difference.
That's it.
Okay. All right. This is our last workshop session. Any comments or thoughts from membership on the concept as proposed? Ms. Hammock?
I know no one is here to listen, but for other architects, I think it's really great that you found the historic photo and that you color coded your plans and I think that's very visually helpful to the board to see what's proposed to be changed and what's keeping. So I'd like to see more architects do that. If you could explain again what the client is gaining by extending the roof line at the front of the building.
Yeah, sure. Could we go back to the plan real quickly? It's probably the best. And I know it's not a plan that's furnished and whatnot, but they gain a couple of things. This is the main and really only living space of the house. So this is living, dining, and everything. It's got to do all the work for their family in this open space. And it really just is so now. I mean, this is the same story that you're probably hearing day in, day out with Holland Hills. These homes are so great, but we're a growing family with young kids, and we just need that little bit extra to make it right for our family, right? And it also makes this into a usable bedroom as well. Again, it's only 6 or 7
But
feet.
you're not enclosing it. Are you enclosing it?
With this area?
The gray at the bottom.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I see why it's confusing. The gray is just shaded so you can see what's new, what's the addition.
So it's gonna be enclosed space.
Yes, yes.
The way you're talking about it is saying, oh, we're just extending the roof, but you're then enclosing it with an addition.
Correct. This is all added square footage. What I'm saying is that rather than, just as an example, the project a couple projects ago, when they proposed an addition, they went from the gable roof to a butterfly roof. They changed the roof line. We're proposing an extension.
I understand.
Yeah.
I just thought maybe you were doing like a deck or something.
Oh, no, no.
I'm okay with, I truly, how should I say this? I'm okay with being the most conservative board member when it comes to Holland Health. And you don't need my vote, you just need a quorum for an approval. It was interesting, I was looking at this building and it's a unique type amongst a sea of unique types, but it's particularly special, this butterfly roof building. And I just pulled up my graduate thesis and I actually have a picture of your home in my graduate thesis from April 2007. So I thought it was special then at 23. I just aged myself, but I don't want this butterfly roof changed in any way. It's a beautifully intact building. I don't think it's appropriate to, just like with the other home, I don't think it's appropriate to extend off the front of a building that's so intact, that has such a visual impact to that of public right of way. And I think it does create a sense of false history to extend the butterfly roof in that way, since it is such a unique building feature, such a sense of place and time. We don't see butterfly roofs in 2024. So no, I couldn't support that. I'm not as much concerned with the bedroom addition off the rear. I don't think that's going to be very perceivable from the street, and it's quite, it's going to leave more than half of that rear facade intact, I believe. So those are my thoughts.
Any other thoughts from board members? Mr. Quincy?
Some similar things we touched on with past applicants here in the workshop. That living room wall, which is original, going away is not something that I'm comfortable supporting. some modification to it perhaps, but a wholesale kind of extension over doesn't seem to work under the circumstances. I mean, that's all authentic materials that you're taking away that are street facing, even though they are somewhat obscured by that garden wall. And that's one of the areas. The other is when you look at this roof, not only is it a butterfly, but it's also a taper. I don't know if you've factored that in. So extending that taper up, it's going to become ridiculously thin if you were to extend it properly. If you look at
Well,
your,
the taper doesn't start till the house ends, so you continue the thickness and then you start the taper when it
when
it goes to the eave.
original photo, it's just more clearly seen in the original photograph. You zoom in on that?
Yeah, so the taper begins where the eave starts.
Okay.
It's a pretty standard Holland Hills
Okay,
detail.
so you're, okay, but you're suggesting that you continue that eve at that thickness and then taper it
Yeah,
once again, once you get beyond?
that's right, yeah.
I just think that that needs to be clearly articulated and we need to understand that detail better than what we're seeing right now. This, the point of this workshop is kind of
Sure.
identify those areas. I'm uncomfortable with moving the door, being that the hallmark is that they are kind of on a non-visible plane from the street typically. And this is one of those cases. A little bit more of accepting of it when it was further back and obscured by a carport on that last project. We're willing to consider it. I'm just not as I'm just concerned that changing that does change the character of the house.
Everyone's doing the restroom breaks. So I'll share mine. So I gotta agree with Ms. Hammock in complimenting your presentation method. These slides showing pictures, this rendering, this has been really helpful to walk through and understand what you're proposing. So I'm able to grasp the project, which is really helpful. Sometimes we just get here's a drawing and now parse out what was original and what's new and sort that out, and it can be maddening. I think with the rear addition, I don't really have any major issues with that. I think it's very well articulated where it's going to go. I think you chose a good spot for it. It's interesting that you found a picture showing the privacy fence. I mean, I'm hard pressed to argue with you if you have a picture showing the fence. It looks like that picture's put 1952. So I'm having a hard time going, well, that's a privacy fence that was there. I don't know if I really have a big problem with it then. Aesthetically, if that's what they liked, I might be more willing to, I'm probably willing to work with that. Despite my prior protestations about front doors and doors on Holland Hills houses, I don't know if I have as much issue with the door rotation. If that were all we were really focusing on, but when we take that part and parcel with the change to the door, adding to the front facade extension, which, I mean, you were here for the other one, it just wholly, I mean, yes, well, you're dragging it out and yeah, you're trying to replicate it, but it's not the original fabric. It's not the original house. So it's kind of creating a false historicism. And while it's appreciative of the style, I would love to see other alternatives to try to maximize more space for your client. And because I recognize I'm having you explain the reasoning that, this is the space that serves everything. This is before everyone was all gaga about open concept. This was, no, here's the open concept. Here's your open room. You do everything in it. That I'd be looking for some more ideas that would not take that whole facade and extend it out like that. It really is and keeping the brick is probably the one thing I would be more willing to sacrifice compared to the fenestration.
I just want to, I really didn't say give you the full measure of my comments. I think restoring the fence is is wonderful. I think that's a great attribute that you're bringing to the project. I'm absolutely fine with what I've seen that you've done on your bedroom addition on the side. I'm not opposed to you extending the living room and making it better. It's just that with the balance is created by the roof slightly asymmetrical with the tapers right now. If you could hold that same front facade, maybe step back what you're doing a distance and be a little bit more subservient to that facade with anything that you do. Not necessarily the same roof line, perhaps extend the roof line, but extend it further back. You know, it's just, but I don't know that I don't know that that's the best solution. The idea is you do have a very well-defined front elevation here, and I wouldn't want to see anything taking away from that. So anything that does get added on definitely needs to be secondary. And just kind of extruding it, I think, is just a little bit say it's difficult to keep that balance that you have now when you pull one side off to the right, 12 feet, 7 feet, whatever your distance is. I think you have options here. It's just the thing that, and I think some of the moves you're making are great, but the thing that's getting me is that front facade and that balance of that tapered roof right now, or, you know, the entire roof plane is with, you know, in concert with the mass of the chimney and fireplace. It works very well right now. You know, don't want you to take away from that.
Okay.
I think that would hurt the feel of the district.
Other thoughts? Anything?
Well, I'm looking at the side by side of the historic photo with the current photo of the front facade, and I'm just noticing that I feel like the taper is so much more obvious in the original. And I feel like, I don't know if there was roof work done or gutter work or something, that it just doesn't feel as original, the tapering that's there now. But maybe that's the ban.
I mean, I honestly, I can't honestly answer that. It's definitely possible that there's been roof work done since 1952. I can promise you that
Yes,
there's been roof work done since then.
That's something that, and I guess that's a question of, if you're planning on, I guess, taking it back to what's shown in the original photo versus recreating what's there. I mean, maybe there's a slight taper, but it just doesn't have that.
Right.
That.
Well, I mean, I can answer that question. I see exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
But I can tell you that in terms of the rear addition, for example, you know, because let's just say that other one is up for grabs now, right? The idea would be we'd have to match the lines. Everything would have to meet up, right? So we'd have to build it to match the thickness of what's there now in reality.
Okay.
Because if
Sure.
you want it, things need to line up to look right.
Right. But so the weight is already somewhat different, I guess, or the symmetry is already somewhat different than what it was originally, but I am not an expert in this area at all. That I would say visual, I'm looking at the two side by side, and I like the original in terms of just how thin it gets out on the edges versus, you know, what's there now looks a little chunkier.
Yeah.
Well, that is a product of time. That is a product of
been built
energy
up.
code changes. That's a
Yeah.
product of people living it and having different functional needs. But it just shows you how depth I think that Goodman was at his craft when he was doing these. He really did have that.
It also is a special feel. I mean, these houses were meant to be the showpieces, so, and they're, you know, they really would stand out and speak for themselves. So approaching this house and not finding the door actually is almost more of a mystery in itself, when you approach it. And I recognize, I agree, but I think that will be a challenge as you're looking at matching that what Mr. Kalinsky talked about, tapering that and everything. That kind of detailed information is going to be critical when we see it coming in the future for an application. And I'm sure other folks will have questions about when you do have your addition connected there, how is that going to work out drainage wise? And
Oh, sure,
because that, you know, many of these, the complicated roof structures, we want to make sure that something's getting built that we understand is going to be, you know, a long-term success, not a, you know, a challenge in the future.
Sure.
Any other thoughts, observations? All right, we left you with a lot to think about. Obviously, you can always come back for another workshop. And it's not, as you said to everyone else before, people coming back for applications, make whole plan sets and everything to make sure we know what,
Oh, yes, of
Yeah.
course, you gotta come back with full plans.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm saying it more for myself than I feel like I'm saying it for you. It's
Okay.
we always want to make sure we're the right one. All right, thank you for waiting and being so enduring. All right, that was our last workshop session. That takes us on to board and staff items, and I'm going to attempt to move through those at an expedient pace. Review and action on the approval of the previous month's meeting minutes for the April 11, 2024 meeting. I don't think, did you all get any comments on those meetings?
No.
Oh, Mr. Zellman.
I move the ARB approve the April 11, 2024 meeting minutes and pay the clerk Brian Johnson. Oh, hold on.
Sorry, I did have a slight modification of the meeting minutes.
You were anxious.
On page 6, there's a workshop item number 1. It was 2208 Glasgow Road Edition. And this is just a technical thing, under member comments, bullet point number 4. It listed Ms. Bostic is speaking when it was actually Ms. Kelly.
Okay.
I'm confusing your architects. Somebody, somewhere.
So, Mr. Zellman. Would you move that?
Consider that a friendly modification?
100% I would.
So you're moving to approve them with the.
I just don't remember what page number and bullet point, Mr.
The page number appointed as by board members.
Page 6, bullet point number 4.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I would move that the ARB approve the April 11, 2024 meeting minutes and pay the clerk Ryan Johnson, well, amending page 6, bullet point 4 from Ms. Bostic to Ms. Kelly.
All right, second. Seconded by Ms. Hammack. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Treasurer's report, we have an ending balance as of April 30th of $14,812.09. Anything else on that one, Daniel, or?
I told Kay before the meeting, but I was told that her reimbursement has been approved. So that's like November, I think. John's is still pending. So that number will.
John's troublemaking expenditure. All right, thank you on that one, Daniel. Administrative, so a motion to approve renewals of professional memberships maintained by the ARB. So just speaking briefly about this, we maintain several professional memberships, including the National Trust, National Alliance for Preservation Commissions, and the Preservation Virginia membership. And Daniel is seeking a motion that approves all future renewals of these memberships, not exceeding the following amounts. I can't make the motion, but you can absolutely make that.
I make the motion to renew all existing memberships at their current. Oh, I didn't read it. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's deliberately got an up to in them.
Yeah, if you can read it that way, I think.
I move that ARB approves all future renewals of professional memberships maintained by this body. Annual renewals may be made by county staff as needed, not exceeding the following amounts. Up to 300 for the National Trust for Historic Preservation membership, up to 200 for the National Alliance of Preservation Commission membership, and up to $125 for Preservation Virginia membership.
All right, we have a motion, there's a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Zellman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There was a delay. Any abstentions? Not hearing none.
Against it.
The motion carries. All right, discussion, updates and reports. I see none. Are there none? Correct. Andy?
Correct.
Correspondence, announcements, monthly DPD Heritage Resources branch update.
Yes, so I only have one big thing to highlight, and then I can speak to any questions that any members have from the branch update. But we just want to make everyone aware of the Dunloring School rezoning application that is listed on there. Heritage Resources staff are one of the review agencies in that process, and one of our recommendations is that the applicant presents to the ARB for feedback on the application. The current proposal is to demolish the Dunloring School, which is a county inventory site and replace it with a new school. It's scheduled for the planning commission in September. A much taller school. Thank you to Ms. Murray. So there's activity and discussion happening at the history commission, but our recommendation is that they come and present to the ARB kind of as a workshop application. They're going to the planning commission in September, and so if they are going to heed that recommendation, they would have to come in June or July because the ARB takes an August recess. So just so that is on everyone's radar. Are there any questions about anything else?
No, they want to make it 65 feet tall, which for the corner of Gallows and Idlewood Road is way too tall.
And I got the impression, as Daniel was telling me, that what they were thinking of doing is having some display inside or something.
Yeah, that's it, yes.
So,
Everyone's okay with it demolished. No one cares about the existing building.
No, we very much care.
There's
The History Commission spent a lot of time and effort and.
No, it looks quite lovely with the little eyebrow dormers.
The thing, what I think is that the schools did not hire an architect who had any idea of how to do an adaptive reuse. So they just said, oh, we can't do it, we're not gonna do it.
yeah, I mentioned I was frustrated that we
That's
had,
right, you had pined on that.
and we had frustration that we had success at Mount Vernon, and that we're finding a way to use that space, but here we're throw it to the brickyard.
Yeah.
It's obviously, I've told Dana I'm full support having them come present to us. Obviously, it's not something we have purview over. However, we as a role in the ARB can advise the board of supervisors about their decisions. So
And the planning commission.
and the planning commission. This is true.
Yes.
Well, with either one of those boards that might or might not listen to us. So if that's something having them come present to us would be helpful to understand where they're coming from. But if we want to say something about it, or we want to opine about it, obviously, if someone wishes to direct a response, we can definitely try to do one. I'd be all ears if someone wanted to pen one or help me propose one if we have a solution or idea we want to propose. I know the History Commission has done similar things. We've done it in the past where we've commented on projects and provided the ARB's perspective on it.
It might be a good idea to share the Ignite file that the History Commission has, including the History Commission's letters. So you can see some of what.
Yeah, if you could do that, that'd be wonderful, Daniel.
I mean, you only see it for 30 days, but at least it'll be out there.
I would download them.
Well, true. You have to download them within
I
30
mean,
days.
Yes, I will follow up with that. Then the other big highlight from the branch update is that Kelly Atkinson has accepted the position of director of the planning division. She officially starts in that role on May 18th, but we've already had 3 meetings with her before she assumes that role. She's currently serving as the assistant director of the division and as one of the branch chiefs. So there's going to be a period of transition, but that seat has been officially empty since January.
And I told Daniel that we wanted to get on the agenda to meet with her as soon as possible. So probably be myself and maybe Mr. Zelman, I don't know, or someone else wants to come along. There we go. Obviously, anything in particular, I mean, it would be bringing up the general things that we're up to, the challenges we're dealing with, obviously lots of applications. I'd also be using the chance to praise the staff we have now, who I think have been phenomenal and really getting us to be a tight ship. So we could always use more help though. So I think, but if you think of something that you would like mentioned, please convey that to me for the ARB email I have, because I just want to make sure we're on their radar when we talk to them, because I think that's been the biggest success we've had with DPD is that they know we're here and they know we want to work with them. They have to acknowledge us. All right. Any other things you want to point out, Daniel?
Nope.
All right. Old business discussion of draft submission matrix.
Yeah, so for the first time I was able to share the draft document for all of you to review. If you've had a chance to do so, that's in the Ignite folder. That has been fully vetted by the Office of the County Attorney so that we can actually require the materials that are in there. Just a refresher, we are planning to group application types into 5 tiers, tier A through tier E. The lowest tier is what we see as the simplest projects in terms of ARB review, so they need the least amount of materials for a submission. So that would be like solar panel projects, decks, mechanical permits, because those are going to continue to come to the ARB. And then it kind of increases in complexity and requirements all the way up to brand new construction. So this is our effort in response to trying to standardize application materials so that the ARB is always seeing photos of all sides of the building, because that is not, we currently can't require anything because of the way the material language is written. It says the ARB may require. And so we're now going to introduce a new process to, they will not be on the agenda if they do not have all of the materials that are required. So just review that at your leisure. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, but that process will not officially come into play until all the new design guidelines are adopted, because they're related. So in the fall.
This is amazing, though. It's fantastic. This is, I was gonna say, particularly, I know Elise and I, however, you and I without John here, like the ones who've been around the longest now. But that's been a perennial problem, is making sure we get the right materials in, and then having to talk to an applicant about, well, we don't have everything we need, so.
And then trying to be consistent from applicant to applicant.
But yet also-
Some people get a pass.
Yeah, and trying not to also be crabby about it, but at the same time, like, we need, this is great. This would be fantastic.
So I just want to point out two things that we have been approved to say that ARB requires, but are not necessarily required for the related building permit. For all decks, we have structural or plan drawings to see the aesthetic of the deck. If you have ever tried to get a permit for a deck in Fairfax County, it is a 2-page worksheet. So we are going to require more, but there's a reason that we're requiring more, because we're looking at aesthetic impacts. Aesthetic and visual. And then the other thing is we've accounted for a lot of the discussion around solar projects in the last several months. So we are going to be requiring a plan sheet showing the routing of all the components and conduit and materials. And when necessary, photos from the roof or sight lines towards contributing resources. Because all of the solar techs have them, they just do not submit them because they have to go on the roof. So that's all been cleared by OCA, like I said. But most of the remaining requirements are based on what the county requires for permits. So we're like in lockstep.
Great. All right, update on design guidelines project.
Yes, so we are deep in the public engagement planning process. We have 2 tentative meeting dates out of the 5 that we're planning to hold this summer. They'll be in June and July, so I will share dates as soon as I have them for you. We got the revised drafts of all the documents back, so that's on a task list for a final review before they're publicly available. Similar to when the Holland Hills HOD study and design guidelines were ongoing, there will be a public input page where we'll be soliciting feedback on how successful this project has been, if the new documents are easy to use and accessible, and if the visual representation and examples are helpful to applicants. So that will just keep you all updated, but it is moving full steam ahead. So we will be bringing revised design guidelines and the new general document for adoption this fall.
Once dates are shared, if you know that you would be able to attend one of those, please let me know. And is it an issue if more than?
It is a public meeting, so no.
No, okay. But if you are able to attend or plan to attend, just please let Daniel and I know so that we know that we have the ARB representation there, even if we're not expecting anything of you, just that it would be helpful when we do and eventually have to take this in for vote, that we're got eyes in the actual midst of the public. All right, new or other business? Joe, you got it, new or other business? No, okay. Oh, he does, okay.
Yes, I do. Sorry, I'm not there tonight. I hope I can be there next month, but TBD at my family members getting something taken care of. So just patience. The other thing is regarding the Lorton Arch thing, guys, we can't allow that, whatever's going on with the solar things. I mean, I'm appalled by it. I don't know why they're doing this. I mean, they're saving money because of underground wiring and so forth, but I don't want to beat to death, but I hope we can come as a board to just rein in the county from saying it's the cheapest way we can do it and da, 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 da. And I'm floored. I don't know what to say. I'm really upset, and I'm going to talk to the board members or our board CEO at the North and say what is going on, because they have control of what goes on in that parking lot. I know that the Workhouse Board wanted to put solar panels on their roofs. I thought that would be facing 123 because that's the best orientation for solar. I said, very doubtful that's going to happen. I don't think we'll see solar panels on the slate roofs of that building. So I suggested, hey, we got plenty of acreage. If you really want to go solar, it's going to cost more money, but have a 2 acre, 3 acre solar array somewhere. And if they really want to go that route, do it that way. That's out of sight, out of mind, and do it that way. But I mean, the county's strapped for funds to do anything to building 1 and to the other buildings. So I have no idea what's going on. I'm flabbergasted, to say the least. And I hope we can have a good, keen eye that, I'm a lost for word. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
I may just add to that. I think the design they came up was ridiculous. I mean, I do solar designs. I do solar powered cathodic protection system on bridges. So we designed it all the time. But this is ridiculous. I mean, 2x4 panels, 25 feet high. You get a wind. and they're putting a battery at 25 feet. I don't think they know what they're doing.
I am glad they came in for a workshop session. And I feel like we gave them a lot of feedback. And I'm hoping that when that conversation happens again, it is very informed by how much we had concerns. I'm using very specific language, I feel like, but again, I think we definitely can, I think everyone conveyed their thoughts on that very much. I think they left a lot of thoughts. Also, I think there has been a renewed effort with the county associated with these properties and making sure they engage with us. So I think that's another positive thing, that we're not seeing this as an application, we saw it as a workshop. So trying to be the glass half full, we've got to talk about it very early. All right. There's no new news from John. He's off partying or something, so we don't have any additional new business. So, there you go.
I moved to adjourn.
Oh, there's. All those in favor? Aye. So passed. Thank you. You snuck that right in. Yeah, that was good. That was like.
Have a good Mother's Day, guys. See ya. Peace.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Peace.